The topics and opinions expressed on the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4WN Radio.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to another inspiring episode of the Success for Women radio and TV show. I am your host, Dr. Madeline Ann Lewis, and as always, this is the show where we celebrate strong, resilient, and purpose-driven women who are defining success on their own terms. Well, today's episode is one that touches the heart. It's about courage, faith, and the power of healing. Our theme today is a journey to healing and hope. And I am honored to have with me a remarkable woman whose story will inspire you to find strength even in life's most difficult moments. My guest is Miss LaVonne Reedy Thomas, and she is a true example of resilience. She's here to share her powerful journey through breast cancer, a story filled with challenges, breakthroughs, and ultimately triumph. So ladies, wherever you are, whether you're watching on the YouTube or listening across the podcast networks, I invite you to settle in, open your heart, and let LaVonne's journey remind you that healing is not just possible, but transformational. So I'd like to bring on my guest, Miss LaVonne Reedy Thomas. Welcome. It is so great to have you here to come and just share with us, talk about something that, a lot of people don't like to talk about. And so that's why I'm so glad to have you here. LaVonne, before I get started, I just tell us a little bit about yourself. Just tell us about LaVonne.
Oh, thank you so much, Dr. Madeline. I love you. I respect you. I applaud you. You are a phenomenal woman in every sense of the word. So I admire all that you are doing for women. And I'm that kind of woman. I'm the kind of woman who likes to celebrate women, work with women, elevate women, connect women, teach women, engage women. And women is the spectrum, from the younger women, college age, all the way up. I mean, somebody would say I'm a seasoned woman now, which is probably the most shocking thing about me, is that I still see myself as, the younger LaVonne. But I'm grateful to be at this stage in my life because it could have been a different conversation a year ago.
Wow.
And so I am a creative. I do writing, poetry. I've been a professional journalist. I paint. That's my work right here behind me. A couple of my pieces, which is a new gift that I discovered in 2019 after going through another difficult season. I'm a mother. I'm a wife. I'm a daughter. I love Jesus. I mean, I'm nobody probably any different than most people know. I just try to be the person that God wants me to be, and I try to be that in excellence.
There you go. Yes, and you do it very well. And I tell you what, it's great to have you here. And I wanted you to come because your journey is both powerful and deeply personal. And I know it will inspire so many women listening today. So let's start by going back to the beginning. And that is, so can you take us to back to the moment you first received your diagnosis? What emotions went through your mind, and how did you begin to process what was happening?
So I did my annual mammogram November, around my birthday, November 7th. And I didn't get the typical letter that comes within 24 to 48 hours saying that everything was great. So that was a flag for me. I'd also had noticed that I had this swelling in my upper right area. And I thought maybe it was a pull or something. I activated something. And so I got a phone call, and the person says, I said, well, hi, it was from the radiology office. And I said, well, is this a customer service call? Because I'm on the other line. And she said, no, it's not really a customer service call. And I was like, okay, well, got off the other line. And she said, well, we see something different than your previous mammogram. And so we just want to bring you in to be sure. I said, okay. In my spirit, in my deepest place that I didn't even know existed, I kind of knew, okay, that's what this was. And I didn't say anything when I went. I didn't say anything to the tech because I've learned from previous experiences that you don't discuss anything with the techs.
Okay.
They're just there, and they should not discuss anything with you either. That was my experience with a dental tech. And so I went in, she said, well, we want you to come in as soon as you can. So I said, okay, well, what's available? The way I typically go wasn't available. So I said, I'll take whatever you have in the area. So that's one of the things that I think is important is you have to treat anything that's suspicious with urgency. Right? Expeditiously, immediately, do not sit on it. Right. So I went in, this was late November, and they still couldn't find. I had to do another set of mammogram images, and they said, well, we're not sure. So they wanted me to come back and do a biopsy and MRI and all that. So because I had 2 areas on my right breast that were suspect, they brought me back in January because I needed like 4 or 5 hours to go through the process. And I could tell, just from talking to everybody and their encouragement, what was going on. And so they called me a day or so later and said that I had 2 areas. Of course, the lower area was a stage 0, and the upper area where I had felt the swelling was a 1. But they wanted to get me in to see a surgeon and oncologist as quickly as possible, which I did. I don't talk about the specific diagnosis that I had because it doesn't matter if you have the same type of anything, any kind of medical diagnosis. Everybody's experience is different. Everybody's response to treatment is different. The treatment protocols are different. So it's not really important. What's important is the stages. And so we met with the oncologist, we met with the breast surgeon, and the breast surgeon was great, but the nurse, I forget what they call them, but she kind of guided me through my whole treatment experience. I went to Anne Arundel Medical Center's Breast Health Center, and I had a wonderful experience, no complaints. But she said to me, if this were 20 years ago, your survival rate would be 5%. I was like, did I really need to know that?
I'm telling you, yeah.
So I'm sitting there with my husband and I'm crying. So that was my reaction. I was good through everything else until she said that. One, because it was a place of gratitude to know that so many women have endured this journey and were the models for the treatments that we have today. Mm-hmm. And I have friends and family who have succumbed to the illness, whether it was immediate, whether it was after treatment, whether it was a recurrence. Friends, childhood friends, gone at 40 something years old because of the personal choices that they made. And so we started the regimen. I had chemo first, and then by April, so I started the chemo in February was my first one. After I had 6 rounds, and halfway through, they have you to go back to your surgeon. And so my surgeon had a resident working with her, and the resident pulls up the machine to do the sonogram imaging, and she's looking at the axis. And I said, oh, that's what geometry and algebra was for. No wonder I didn't. And so they laughed, and she says to my surgeon, I can't see the areas. So the surgeon said, what do you mean? She says, I don't see anything. And so my surgeon says, well, let me pull up the original imagery. So she's on one computer. So she sends it to, I guess, the computer that the resident was on, and they did a side by side. And she said, LaVon, it's not there. I don't see anything. So I said, well, the God I serve can perform miracles. So I believe that. And so she said, well, she said, I have to allow you to make a decision about how you proceed. And I said, well, what's your recommendation? She said, my recommendation is that we finish the rounds. And I said, then I'm going with you. I felt like I was led to her, and she was there to guide me. So I'm not going to challenge and question and do all those things. My attitude throughout the process was, I trust God, and I trust the people he's put in my path. Mm-hmm. Somebody said to me, you should do natural treatment. Not my thing. That's what you want to do. I knew that wasn't for me because I don't have that kind of discipline. Mm-hmm. Right? I'm the type of person that I want you to hold my hand and tell me what to do. ABC 1, 2, 3. That was, to me, too much work. My husband and I paid good medical insurance for a long time. And we never used except for the 3 babies that we had, and maybe a couple of incidents here and there. So it was time to put that insurance to use. And so it was good. And then chemo number 5 went well. And then all hell broke loose. It was like my body was tired. My blood pressure was low. I had no appetite. Meat tasted like wood. Vegetables tasted like, meat tasted like plastic, for weirdly enough, styrofoam, and vegetables tasted like wood. And so I had no appetite. I would eat whatever I, could tolerate. I lost a lot of weight, and they were very concerned. And so I was gonna do a reconstruction surgery, but I saw the plastic surgeon, and he said, if I were to do the operation today, if you were to come to me today, I would not do your surgery because you wouldn't make it. Like, what? I wouldn't make it. So the original plan was to do a double mastectomy. So it was not a genetic cancer, so I had that ruled out as well. So that's important to know your family history. And even if you don't know your family history, you can get your genetic testing done. As once you get to a certain age, check with your medical professional, with your health insurance, because that's good to know going in. So I didn't have a family history of it. And then they told me that I was not, that I did not carry the genes. And so they were concerned about whether or not I could make it through the surgery. So I said, well, I'm sticking with the double mastectomy. And if that's the best way, because I didn't want to do radiation. I just wanted it to be over with. And I felt like the girls had served their purpose. I was not a fan of them. I was well endowed. That's something I do want to make sure we hit on, Dr. Madeline, is about body consciousness and body confidence. And so when I went to the surgeon the first time, and she said, typically with this type of cancer, we would do a mastectomy and maybe a double mastectomy, depending on what your genetics and everything says.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So she says, do you have a problem with that? I said, you can have them. And so my husband said, you did not hesitate. Well, that summer 2023, I had decided I was gonna, if I get a job, it's gonna be so that I can pay for a breast reduction. I always wanted one. My mother talked me out of it. God created you in his image, and your body is fine the way it is. And my husband's like, you don't need to mess with those things. They're good, whatever. I was tired of it. Gravity was starting to take effect. And I was like, enough. So when I saw Sherry Shepherd did hers, I was like, okay, I'm going to go do mine. The one thing I used to always say, every time I went for my mammogram, every time it would cross my mind, I said, God, keep them healthy. If you keep them healthy, I'm good, right? Just keep them healthy. Well, for whatever reason, they didn't stay healthy. So I got a reduction with no reconstruction, because it's the process that's required during the initial surgery prepares you for the reconstruction, and I just physically wasn't able to endure it, so I really didn't have an option. So that led me to July last year. I gained a few pounds. They were able to get my blood pressure maintained through medicine, and I got round 6 and then did the double mastectomy. And I went to ER twice. Once I stayed overnight. I was there, the hospital, 3 nights. That was the worst. That was just before, that was between chemo 5 and 6. And so, but the funny thing about the whole experience was when I went to get the surgery, I wasn't supposed to stay overnight.
Okay.
But my surgeon said something about my energy just wasn't good for her when she came in to mark me up. And as a matter of fact, when she was marking me up, all I could imagine, and then when they were taking the pictures of me throughout the process, all I could imagine was when Kim Fields did her breast reduction, and they had it as part of the storyline on Living Single, and she was doing all that. And so that kind of motive, kept me in a good headset too. And so she didn't tell me she was going to keep me. So I wake up from the anesthesia, and they said, well, Ms. Thomas, we're trying to get you a room. And I was like, a room? And she said, yeah, the doctor wanted to make sure you were okay through the night. Everything went well. Your vitals are good. She just felt like you needed to be tended to.
Okay.
Oh, that's so sweet. So I stayed. So it took them a while to make the connection that the room was for the same day. And so once they finally got me a room, I go upstairs, and my nurse and my attendant, their names were Glory and Joy. And they told me that they actually stayed after their shift because they didn't want me to be caught up in the new shift task, and they had done everything they needed to do, so they just took responsibility for me. I said, I'll take Glory and Joy any day.
Isn't that something?
So that's how the end became the beginning.
Wow. That's amazing. Just when you think about what you just said, even the names of the 2 attendants, Glory and Joy, those were just blessings surrounding. Yep. Wow. Yep. I mean, I heard that as soon as you started talking about it. That's what. So tell us this, many women describe that moment as life-changing for them, like, especially when you first find out about it and you're going to have to go through either, the chemo or the reconstructive surgery or what have you. When did you first find that spark of hope that helped you to shift from fear to faith?
I don't know that it was ever a shift as much as they stayed interconnected.
Okay.
I feel like the fear part pushed me into the faith that I needed. I mean, I always say, God didn't deliver me from any kind of sinful lifestyles or anything like that. My journey was always faith. God, I know you're going to bring my family through. God, I know you're going to help me get this tuition paid. God, I know you're going to get me this job. I'm actually trying to put extra little dose of faith on now because it's time for me to go back to work. And so they were just interconnected. I was with my husband when the radiologist called to give me the diagnosis, and he was just exceptional. He's always been very supportive of me. And so I felt like I try not to live my life comparing myself to other people. And as I said, every journey is different, but I had to kind of celebrate that I live in a 3-generational house. My father is here with us. I have 2 young adult children, and then my husband. And then I have a brother and another son who live close by. So I'm not the typical person to go through something like this. I had care for my family 24/7. So the only thing I had to do was have a good attitude and follow doctor's orders and try to eat and let people do. I mean, I did work. I worked on a campaign from January or February to May. So I would go out and do campaign events. So I'm grateful that I had the strength to do those things. And they would drive me because the blood pressure thing was kind of hit or miss for a minute. We didn't know quite what it was. And so when I didn't feel as strong, they would drive me. So I never had to look outside of my home for support. I had support. I had friends and my pastor and who, checked on me and called me and everything like that, because I didn't broadcast it. I'm a Facebook person, and I did not publicly let everybody know, oh yeah, I'm going through breast cancer. If you saw me, you knew something was happening. What I've learned is people are very cowardly. They'll look at you sideways and say, oh girl, you look good, you lost some weight. How do you talk about somebody's body? What gives you the right to comment that I've lost weight? Well, you didn't tell me when I was gaining weight, so what's the point? And so for me, it was a thing of staying in a space of gratitude, because financially it was an extra bill in my household, and once my campaign check ended, couldn't even get unemployment to call me back to get my money set up, which probably worked out because I physically wasn't able to do the computer to look for a job, and I don't want them coming for me for some money. So yeah, it was just a thing of staying in the right mind frame and having hope and knowing that my body is my body and it belongs to God and whatever God has for me. But I think that other people may struggle because they have other issues. They got to go to work. They don't have anybody that's readily and available to support them. So my journey is very unique, and I don't take it for granted. I believe what I told God was, if I can run around Prince George's County, Maryland for all of these years, advocating for this and that, and campaigning for everybody that I've worked with, you give me healing, you bring me through this, I will make sure to put my modest mindset away, because as bold as I am with the things that you know about me, Dr. Madeline, I'm not that person who'll get out here and talk about breast care.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm a very private person when it comes to the physical things of life. I'll tell you, yeah, you should go to the doctor. I didn't get my first mammogram at 40. I didn't get it at 45.
Mm-hmm.
I think I was 50,
Mm-hmm.
50 plus. My mother kept saying, you need to go get your mammogram. And I was like, yeah, okay, I'm going to get it. Because my attitude was, whatever is on the other side of that, I need to raise my kids. So once my kids get out of high school, I'll take care of me. I'll do better about doctor's appointments and things like that. So it was an agreement I had with God. So he really made sure that I kept up my end of the bargain. And I did. From 2018 until when was that? 2023, I had my mammogram every year. And so that's just the first start, is get it's better to know than to walk around with a question mark. And that's where, that's part of the healing process now. They say in remission, I say I'm cancer free because I'm not claiming nothing to come back.
Absolutely.
And so, but every now and then you get that little question mark hovering around you. And I'm off of the blood pressure pill, so I'm good. My appetite is definitely back. I've gained a little bit of weight. My biggest challenge is I can't get my hair to come back in the way it was. But you know what? Vanity is not of God.
Yeah.
It's not of God. So fear is a very real thing. But I do believe that fear is fed by other circumstances.
Yes. Well, let me ask you this. And I know you talked about the support, your support system, your family, your church, different things like that. And often we know that women feel pressured to stay strong, even when they're hurting. How did you allow yourself to be vulnerable to receive support from those around you?
Yeah, I have a couple of nicknames among my circle, my family, Fuss and Boss and Sarge. And at one point I was the cleanup woman. I was the make it happen person. And so I have to say that I felt a little, why me for a minute, right? And people always go, well, why not you? God doesn't give you more than you can bear, and God's gonna use this for his glory. And honestly, I was just like, God, I don't know how much more glory you want from me. So my challenge was probably more emotional. And I felt like something was being taken away from me. I really didn't mind the cancer part. My thing was just the timing was bad. Here I am out here trying to get back to work. Life just was lifing for the past, from 2019 forward, coming through COVID, and then family challenges related to COVID, and just life was just being disrupted. And I just felt like, oh, I'm right here and I'm about to jump out. 2024 is going to be my year. And so what kept me grounded was my faith. But just the will that I want to live. Like, I just want to get to the other side of this. Every day, every appointment, I set myself down. I started watching mukbang videos, the videos of people eating food. And it really stimulated my appetite. And I'm a visual person. I'm a visual learner. And when I was talking to my nutritionist, I was describing how food tasted. And I told her about the videos and how they were giving me ideas of what to eat, like stimulating different taste buds in my mind. and I had never experienced anything having to do with anorexia or bulimia or anything like that. But I had a new understanding of why they label those things as psychological conditions, because you need all of your senses, or you can use all of your senses for eating.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, people eat out of emotional need too, right? And
Right.
so once I started separating the different elements of eating, it allowed me to eat. And then that brought me through. That was probably my greatest hurdle, was trying to eat.
Mm-hmm.
I had plenty of people to get me food, cook me food, but just not wanting to eat. And even drinking water, it felt like water was getting stuck, going down. And so, you know, it was just being an encourager to myself. As you know, I went through another health issue in 2018, and I pulled on my poetry. And I started pulling together an anthology, and I wrote some anecdotes in it, and it's encouraged my soul. And so I was already, I believe, prepared for this space and time. So I didn't have to figure out how to be, right? God opened me up to painting in 2019. I hated not being able to paint. So I did as much as I could until the neuropathy just prevented me from doing things. I kept a journal. I have a journal. It's my whole journey. And I wrote in it every day, or almost every day. And when my fingers wouldn't let me, you know, I could key things into my phone sometimes. So though this was an encourager, of course, scripture encourages you. I found a lot of people on YouTube who do ministry that I would have never known, or Instagram. And just every now and then you just plug in and look for that message to encourage you.
Right. Wow. So when you look back on your experience, what do you feel were some of the unexpected lessons or blessings that came from your journey with cancer?
The unexpected. I would say that I'm not a patient person. I love a good debate, but I have learned that's not my fight.
Okay.
I have learned to, I won't say let go of things, because I'm just a very emotional, sensitive person, but I've learned to kind of park some things that may frustrate me, or some people who may have hurt me or bothered me. And I've allowed God to let me know when I needed to reconnect with those people. And there's still some folk out there that I have not reconnected with. The greatest, I would say, probably blessing, and this of course doesn't apply to everybody, because everybody doesn't live in the house like I do. I got to see my young adult children thrive.
Okay.
I got to see what we have instilled in them, set by example. As I said, my father lived here. My mom was here with us for 2 years during her cancer journey. She passed away in February 2016. So my children have seen what it takes to support. My mother wasn't physically relying upon us for her day-to-day needs, but you know, she didn't have to tend to the house all day long as she did when she lived where she did. You know, I would have to fix food for her sometimes, and then other times she fixed food for us. So I got to see my children really transition into adulthood and making decisions, because I wasn't keeping track of anybody but me. And so it was, if you're leaving the house, let us know. what time are you coming back? They took care of the house with my husband. They, grocery shop. They cooked. My daughter has just become this fantastic cook, which I don't cook.
Remember her rum cake? I do remember that.
And so that's probably the greatest blessing of it all, is to have the opportunity to watch. I saw Crystal Evans Hurst did a podcast about the role you begin to play with your adult children. I think it was Crystal, and she was talking about you become a coach, become their coach. And so that last year I became their coach. So much so that one day I had to tell my daughter, I said, Lauren, you don't even care about when mommy eats or anything. She says, Mommy, you are fine. There's a difference between caring for you and coddling you.
Wow.
So I said, I guess I'm recovered. Time for me to get back to doing some things.
I know that's right.
Yeah.
So, tell me this: if there are always moments when hope feels different. So, what kept you moving forward though on those days that felt the hardest? Because I know you probably had a couple of those.
Yeah, that 1 month in June, because it was getting close to the wire on whether or not I would be able to have the surgery, because you have to do your chemo and then you only have a 30-day window after your last chemo to get your surgery. And like I said, I wasn't scheduled to do radiation. So my girlfriends and I'm glad you asked the question, because I wanted to mention that one of the statistics is that 1 in 8 women will have a breast cancer diagnosis. I have a circle of friends. We were all turning 60 last year. So I call them my 60 sis. I can't remember exactly, but anyway, it was 60 in a circle. And there are 8 of us in this little group. And I was the person.
Wow.
And when I was suspicious of the diagnosis, that was in November, I think it was November. No, it was January. I hadn't gotten the diagnosis yet. And we all got together to celebrate birthdays. And I'm looking around the table and I'm like, it's 8 of us and I'm the one.
Wow.
And so I felt like if this was my journey out of the 8 of us, then I had to do it to the best of my ability. And so because we were all turning 60, we were sitting at the table and I said, so what's everybody doing for their birthday? We all started talking, because I'm the person that's always like, we got to celebrate your birthdays. And so everybody said what they wanted to do. And I said, well, I want to go to Disney World.
Oh.
I want to do adult Disney.
And
they were like, so a couple of my friends are big Disney people. They go with or without their kids who are grown. They go with their grown kids. And so I said, yep. So my birthday is November. I'm on next to the last person in the circle's birthday. So we all planned to go to Disney. And so like in the Super Bowl, at the end, the winning quarterback, they said, where are you going? He said, I'm going to Disney World. That was my goal. My goal was to get to Disney with my girlfriends, and nothing was going to stop me from living that out, because I'm not really a goal setting kind of person. And so when they were trying to figure out some other alternatives to me doing the double mastectomy, my doctor said, well, if you do the partial and then we do the reduction, you'll have to do radiation. And that's like 90 days. And I was like, oh no, 90 days, I'll be celebrating my birthday in Florida.
Yeah, I know that's right.
That kept me, of course.
Yeah, gave you the hope.
That extra thing. So you have to build in incentives for yourself. I would treat myself to a smoothie. So it can be different things. It may be going to the beach and sitting out watching the water. I love North Beach down in Calvert County. So,
well, tell me this: If you had to give some words of, if you could speak directly to another woman who had just received a diagnosis, say today, could you briefly tell us what words of comfort or encouragement would you want her to hear? And because we're coming up to almost the close right now. So tell us briefly what you would tell that person if they got a diagnosis today.
I would say, if you made it through what you believe is your worst situation, then you have what it takes to get through this one. You got to be positive.
Absolutely.
If God's brought you through something before, he can do it again. If you're not a person of faith, you believe that you've endured some difficult times and you pulled through it, pull yourself through it again.
Absolutely.
Trust yourself. Trust yourself always. Trust yourself.
Wow. Well, thank you. I want to thank you for sharing your heart and your story so openly with us today. You've reminded us that healing isn't just about surviving. It's about discovering the strength and the beauty within ourselves along the way. And I believe that's what you did. So I want to thank you for joining me today.
Thank you,
on
Dr.
Successful
Madeline.
Women Show. So it's been a pleasure. It really has. Wow. And I tell you what, as I talk to the audience now, as we close out, I just want to say again, just wow, because what a truly moving, I think, an empowering conversation this has been. Laverne's story reminds us that even in life's most challenging seasons, there is always hope, healing. And, healing takes time. It takes faith, it takes courage, but it is possible. And sometimes your healing journey becomes someone else's inspiration. So that's why we're so happy to have her share today. I want to thank you again, Lavon Reedy Thomas, for being with us today and for showing us that success isn't just about reaching goals. It's about rising strong after the storm.
Thank you.
So for all of you out there, if this episode touched your heart, please share it with a woman who needs encouragement. You can watch the replay on YouTube or listen on Talk4TV, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Pandora, all the requisite places that you can listen to if you just want to listen only. But if you want to watch it on YouTube or the Women for Women Network, you can do that. I want to again thank Lavon Reedy Thomas for being here with us today. This has been the Success for Women show. Of course, we are here every week. I am your host, Dr. Madeline Ann Lewis, helping women to accelerate the path to success. If you'd like to reach out to me, you can reach me at info@exwsi.com. Or you can go to my website, www.exwsi.com. Again, I want to thank Lavon Reedy Thomas for sharing her story with us. Again, something I hope inspired and encouraged those of you out there listening that may have gone through or is going through the same thing. Thank you again to my viewers and listeners for joining me. And you all know I love you all to life. And as always, be well and stay safe out there. This is